Hi, I'm Svante Myrick. I'm the mayor of the city of Ithaca. This is my 10th year as mayor. When it comes to public art in Ithaca, I have a lot of favorites. And what's great about the map the Ithaca Mural Project puts out is that it helps you locate not only the locations, but you can also see the artists and the year that they were done. And some of these, it's hard to pick. I feel like a parent that should not be picking favorites, but some of my favorites anyway. I love Yen's work, Yen Ospina, Brandon Lazore's work, especially the two-row treaty. This is the 400-year anniversary. This is not. It was back in 2013. He did a mural to celebrate the 400-year anniversary of that treaty. That's a beautiful piece. Gosh, so many of the electrical boxes I love. What's the one with the dinosaur? Over on, is it on Buffalo Street, Court Street? There's a great by the Ithaca Town Hall. There's a great dinosaur that wraps around and is ultimately biting his own tail, which feels like a metaphor often for my daily life. But I love them all like a good parent. I love all of them equally. You know, Ithaca is a community that has been uniquely impacted by art. The performing arts and the literary arts, right, from Alex Haley to the Grateful Dead, there are people who live here in Ithaca in part because of an artistic experience that they've had. Now, the visual arts have begun, especially in the last decade and a half, to have a greater impact on our community spaces, right? From the increased statues, the bust, for example, of Martin Luther King, and the renaming of State Street as Martin Luther King Drive, to the murals on the South Side Community Center, on the public garages, especially on the electrical boxes, which were one of the early and great victories for the Ithaca Murals project, have really impacted our lives here as Ithacans. I'm very pro street art and pro murals for a few reasons. One, I think that art has the power, and forgive me if this makes me sound like a hippie, but I really do think art has the power to change lives. It unlocks something in us. It connects us to other people in a way that's really healthy and powerful and necessary as food and shelter and connection. And I think too often art, especially very good art, is exclusive. It's tucked away in museums or in private homes of wealthy people. And we don't celebrate, especially in public spaces, art and artists the way that we should. So especially 10 years ago when I became mayor, and Ithaca Murals and the Public Art Commission and really Caleb were pushing forward to get more public art, I was very much on board. And we started giving more approvals than we'd given before. What's funny now is that I feel like that's actually sort of the mainstream. Cities all over the country are embracing public art for those same reasons, because it's a way to bring into the public sphere what was used to be the domain of just private folks. And as a practical matter, I think we should be flipping on its head this idea that creating art in the public space is a choice any more profound or more serious than not creating art in a public space, right? Like when we build a parking garage and we put a blank wall up, that is also a choice. And we're making a choice about the message we're sending to the community, what we're trying to convey about ourselves. And when you choose a blank wall, you are choosing to avoid. You're hoping that people will say, don't look at me, don't think about me, don't engage with me. And I think for most of the public space, it's actually a wrong choice. I think that's a mistaken choice. So I hope we'll continue to pursue public art in all of our public spaces. It's my hope that we could make it possible for anybody who wants to express themselves in a public space to do that in a way that is orderly and makes room for everybody else. One of the biggest problems we see with graffiti is folks writing over or tagging on other people's work. And that's pretty unfortunate. It creates a lot of bad feelings and can twist some artistic visions. if we can channel that artistic energy through our murals project to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to enliven the public space, I think we'd all be the better for it. I'm always on the lookout for lost cat. I don't know if anybody else is I always get a little bit of joy whenever I spot a lost cat. I think what is often happens with graffiti is it's pointing out, it's almost a way of the street artist pointing out to us space that needs to be enlivened, right? The 10th time you paint over the underpass, you gotta listen to what people are telling you, which is it's a big blank canvas. And when artists look at it, they're seeing a canvas. So why not turn it into one? When the parking garages were getting tagged, it showed us the same thing. So I think that's one useful thing that's useful about street art. If we're seeing an increase in illegal street art, I could imagine it's a way of people who, for the last year and a half, as we've been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, have felt stifled, maybe literally stuck in the house, certainly artistically stifled, not the same opportunities to share, to express, to exchange ideas. There haven't been shows, there haven't been concerts, there haven't been gallery nights. So if there's been an increase in street art, I could understand why that might be tied to the pandemic. In my role, we don't condone or encourage unpermitted street art, but we are trying to turn as many of our public spaces over as possible to artists from the community so that they can do their thing in a permitted way. Murals, like any beautification program, are a double-edged sword, right? The intent is to make the city more visually inviting and to make it more welcoming. That can also invite displacement, right? And gentrification. So how do you pull off beautification without displacement? I do think part of it is the message of the art, and making sure that message conveys who this community belongs to. But I also think it's about who the artists are themselves. Making sure that the artists come from the local community and or are representing a unique perspective. Brandon, for example, Lazore, who's done some beautiful artwork here, doesn't live here, but has deep ties and a deep connection, especially to the Native American community. And between those two things, making sure that we're supporting grassroots artists and supporting artists with a message that resonates locally is a way that we can still invest in beautifying our neighborhoods without displacing our neighbors. I'd like to say directly to any artist hoping to express themselves in Ithaca, we want this to be the city for you. We want to be a city that pushes boundaries, that accepts new ideas, that celebrates them, and that argues. Frankly, we're a city that argues. We do that almost better than we do anything else. And so art that provokes conversation is welcome here. Our mural project is not and has not been conventional. It's not a bunch of faceless, ethnically neutral, genderless people drinking coffee and sitting in chairs in some, bucolic setting. It's art that pushes the conversation around civil rights and human rights. Art that's creative and it's imaginative and it's provocative, and that not everybody will like everything. I'll be honest, I think that's part of my favorite thing about our street art is that you can stand on a corner and argue with your neighbor and say, I like that one, I don't like that one so much, but here's what I do like about that one. I think that's what makes art great. And I hope that you, as an artist, would consider coming and contributing to that scene here.